if we're able to keep them on. So first of all, warm welcome to this orientation week discussion group. So orientation, just like it sounds, we're trying to help you figure out how to use these tools and platforms that we'll be using throughout the successive weeks. Get a feel for what it is we're actually going to be doing and how it's going to work. Yes, and basically, I'll explain also about the option, just a sort of final chance to opt out. Yes, and if you're in, then you have to make a commitment because your peers are going to be dependent on you and you are going to be dependent on them, as some of you have already found out thanks to the remote coffees. So participant presentations, once I've run through this presentation, so this is, again, the only week when there'll be a lot of stuff, information, yes, I'll be sort of dumping on you. But I hope you understand why it's necessary and useful, hopefully. But I'm hoping we'll have enough time so that participants can present what you were asked to do on day one, which is tell us who you are, tell us what emergency operation you're thinking of writing up, and how SAF might apply there. So I'm hoping everyone can see my screen. If I can just get a yes. Sometimes it's buggy after the quick poll. I think Johan is just, okay, great. Yeah. So discussion group agreement, you've seen this, and this is common sense. Just again, just to say, 30 minutes before, I'll open up the session, there'll be a bit of social time. Yes, in some cases, I'll be on hand to sort of help facilitate and ask you how you're doing, but hopefully by around the second week, you won't need me to just to help you do that. 30-minute session is mandatory, so everyone who is not in here, we have 140 or so people in Scholar right now, so we're missing about 30. Those 30 people are going to get a follow-up email from Hannah informing them that they were recorded as absent and inviting them to complete the catch-up task. So basically, people can have a legitimate reason for being absent, but even so, then they still need to view the session recording and complete the catch-up task. This is to be fair so that everyone gets to contribute to the community, and also so to recognize the value of actual attendance. So if you don't want to end up with a catch-up task, come spend 30 minutes. It's half an hour. We try to keep it tight and to the point, as I have said before. We've also set up, so discussion with Canadian Red Cross with Esme Langtree. Some of you may probably know her, even though you may not be, those of you who know her may not be attending at this time. We've set up a second group that'll be meeting 12 hours from now, Geneva time. So if that can also be, you can hop to this group. For example, if you miss one of the morning sessions, you're free to join in the evening. Staying in the same group is helpful, but not mandatory or required in any way. So as you can see from the agenda, I have a lot I want to try to get through. If I'm going too fast, if I speak too fast, remember that the recording will be available afterwards, so that you can always go back to it and take time to review. You've also got the slide deck available in the materials panel in the GoTo training. So if you don't know where that is, you've gotten automated emails with links to the materials, so you can download the slide deck in this way. So first of all, just to try to lift confusion from orientation week, okay? Make it really help you get oriented as to where this is going and why. Just a reminder of the certification requirements. You've seen these before, and you will be getting, towards the end of the exercise, an email from Hannah that recaps what we've recorded about your participation. And it's not just about certification. Even if you don't care about the certificate, these are the things, by doing these things, you're fully participating and contributing to the exercise and supporting your colleagues in their progression through it as well. So each day you've seen welcome messages, video tutorials, other instructions, resources, and in the day one or update, you had 6 short tasks to complete. So and I've posted a couple of videos showing you how I do a check-in. So you log into Scholar, you go to the SAF4ERU community, and then you really need to look at this stuff sort of line by line, figure out what you need to do, and then act on it. So a great response to the orientation day, to the day one update. We've had 94 people comment and respond. That's pretty good. That's a 60% sort of response. and that's comparable to what we've seen with other Red Cross, sort of Red Crescent cohorts. It still means, though, that 40% of you either have not gotten to it yet, did not bother, did not have time, did not understand. So the goal by the end of orientation week is that you understand that when we give you a community assignment, which is what will be happening on Monday, you have, so you're basically expected to get it done, and that's everyone. And there's no reason why anyone you would not be able to finish. These tend to be small tasks, and so we're mindful of the fact that you're working full time, you're very busy, and we try not to waste your time either. So we ask that you do the same if you're committing to this exercise. Orientation day 2. So here we shared some more, and we invited you to download the sort of key resource for this exercise. It's the Introduction to the Safer Access Framework. So, there we've begun to share, Catherine and Panu have begun to share some of their experience and insights about the Safer Access Framework. In today's update, you may not have seen it yet. We get personal with Catherine Martin, asking her to explain why she's so passionate about the Safer Access Framework. Obviously, she's formally tasked with some responsibility for it, even though her role has recently changed. But she gets personal. She has share some interesting insights, and we also have a more official short ICRC video that is a primer about the Safer Access Framework. So do basically look day by day. If you haven't looked at day 1 and day 2 and it's day 3, you can go back and just get those done. Each one sort of builds on the other, so it's important to keep up. Shares is where you'll find useful resources. Again, we're very careful about what we share. If we share it, it's because we think you need it, all right, or somebody has requested it. So basically, the point of orientation week is that by Friday, you're going to be in either one of these two cases. Either you say, I commit to finishing the exercise, I commit to supporting my colleagues, I have time blocked in my calendar. If I get deployed, I'll be there for the catch-up session, and I now know how to figure out what I need to do and how to follow up on it. Okay, you do have, and this is really the last sort of bell for the option to exit. If you've decided this week that this exercise is not for me, we just ask that you tell us why. So it's the same legitimate absence request form, but you just tell us that you're actually opting out of this exercise. Please do it now rather than later. If it doesn't feel right, or if you're having trouble keeping up with the short orientation tasks, and that's fine. We know not everyone is going to make it, and the opting out option can be, I'll be back, given that we're organizing this catch-up session. So this is especially for people who are going to be deployed, but it can apply to other places and circumstances as well. Terence, I'm not sure why your name is not on the list, but please add yourself to it. So we went through the comments, so you must have posted a comment in order for your name to be on that list. Of course, yes, we do make mistakes. Our recording system is not always perfect, but it's pretty good. So what happens on Monday? I can tell you that for some of you, the feeling is going to be that all hell has broken loose. I hope you will forgive the language. You're going to learn to post an update in the community, and we're going to be asking everyone to be sharing in a little bit more detail with a little more specific questions their story, the story they're going to write up or that they're considering writing up. Everyone is going to be able to read everyone else's stories. If you do not deactivate the email notifications in Scholar, you'll get a fire hose of notifications. So we'll show you how to do that in tomorrow's update, probably, as well as in the WhatsApp group, just so you're not caught unaware. And that's in week 1, so that's starting Monday. And then the following week, you'll be asked to comment on how you think that the SAF applies to someone else's story. Now, This is only half of the story in week one. In week one, parallel to this, you're going to be learning to use Creator and developing this story into a real case study with analysis and application of the Safer Access Framework. And I just want to highlight that there will be a deadline coming up very fast at the end of week two, so 4th of May, and that you'll have some tools. You'll have what we call a rubric, which is a set of instructions, criteria, guiding questions for your case study. And then you'll find resources. You'll be supported every day. You'll find new guidance from Panu and Catherine to keep you on track. That should have a K. So reminder of the schedule, and there's going to be a dramatic cutoff point. At the end of week two, basically, if you want to go on to peer review, which is actually probably one of the most exciting and interesting parts of the exercise, you have to have submitted your draft project. So only people who submit their draft project by the deadline will be invited to peer review. And the reason we cannot grant extensions for this or that reason is because it is peer learning. So as some of you have already discovered with the remote coffee trials, if a colleague lets you down, doesn't honor their commitment, then you find yourself in difficulty because of that. So there is a real interdependence. So we have called for team leaders. You can review the more detailed schedule in the slide deck, but we have called for team leaders, and yes, that is especially important because, right, let me see if, and I'll come back to the call for team leaders. I want to talk about the remote coffee trials before. So many of you have, 38 of you have filed reports. So it was a little Google form that might have been a bit hard to find. 3/4 of you say you were able to connect with the partner you were asked to connect to, and 2/3 or a little more than 2/3 you were contacted with someone and able to connect with them. So that's wonderful overall. Of course, if you're in a situation where you haven't managed to connect, it kind of sucks. And that's your first taste of what peer learning means and how you are going to be dependent on each other. So think about that responsibility, which is also why I emphasize, if you want to opt out, do it now. Don't sit there and wait and leave your colleagues just wondering if you're in or if you're out. The other thing about the coffee trial is it's something we do. It's a fun activity when it works. If it doesn't work, move on. There's lots of other things and lots of other ways and opportunities to connect with other participants in the exercise. So don't get bogged down with with this. And we've got some really interesting testimonies about how it worked out. Obviously, like I say, if you didn't make so far you haven't been able to connect, yes, it's kind of it can be you've done your part, so it can seem really unfair in a way. And what I liked is this comment: it's only the first week, it'll be better in the next days. That's really the spirit, again, that I think is a kind of positive attitude that will get you through this exercise. Many of you reported all kinds of interesting things, excitement and being nervous and finding it awesome, and dealing with things, differences and sort of people being for whom English is not their first language. I will share a little secret, which is that we deliberately matched ERU type people with National Society staff and volunteer people. So it is not by accident, and really thinking about that dialogue that should and usually does happen during an operation with a host National Society. Now, the point of the buddy system that caused, I think, some confusion before the exercise got started was about bringing in somebody somebody you already trust. Obviously, the remote coffee is about bringing in somebody you don't know, okay, and getting to know them. And so, yeah, sure, it's familiar to find someone that you've worked with in the field before in this exercise and to sort of pair up with them. But actually, what the Safer Access Framework is about is also about that relationship with people you don't know. So we got some great, really interesting feedback here. And in fact, one person said it was kind of weird and awkward in the beginning, but this is what we're supposed to expect to happen when we're deployed. We'll be working hand in hand with complete strangers. So again, in a way, we're modeling, and I want to state it explicitly in case you haven't, you've probably figured this out by yourself, but we're, sort of mimicking what happens in an operation whenever we can. So again, very positive reports so far, except for those, of course, who found their match not responding or just ignoring their messages. Just a lot of people reporting good experiences. So I think that's just, and we look forward to receiving more reports, including the ones that expressing your disappointment or frustration. But as I said, just move on. There'll be lots of ways in which you can meet and connect with other participants later. All right, just some great stuff coming in now. The remote coffee is one activity that's part of the support system. Another important one that so far we've been sort of disappointed with the level of response is the call for team leader. So maybe team leader sounds really, has a specific resonance, especially in the ERU world. But basically, it would be great if for each ERU or each national society or each language group, it doesn't have to be only one person, it could be a kind of collaborative leadership. People who say, yes, I will do my tasks, but once I've done my work, I'll check in on my colleagues and see if there's anything we can do to support each other. And if some colleagues need help and they haven't reached out to the exercise team, I'll make sure that happens. Flag people for us who need attention, who need who need help. So in practice, what does that mean is really checking in on people from your national society or from your ERU or from your language group. And the people have already taken great initiatives. So in a way, it's just formalizing a little what is going to happen anyway, amongst people who know each other, and make sure people who are not already connected, that they can sort of patch in and plug into the sort of support system between peers. Now, what you guys can do to support each other is one thing. We're trying to be there really every step of the way. Even though you are responsible for your own learning, many of you have already met Hannah or had questions answered. That's why we're here. We want every person to be able, who commits, to be able to make it to the end of the exercise and to overcome any humps, like the technical hump of figuring out how to, which buttons to click in Scholar, things like that. That's completely doable. Yes. The only time we see people not being able to do it is when they come in with a negative attitude about just doing it, and then it's a problem. Reminder about confidentiality and respect. So it goes without saying, but just also, the dialogue, exploration, and reflection that we're sort of hoping for, that can be noisy and messy. It can have people with lots of different levels of experience. So we need as a community to be open, and at the same time to show some discipline and find that sweet spot between just openness and allowing for people, for the huge diversity we have in the group, while keeping a handle on things. So I'm obviously thinking of the WhatsApp group as an example. So that's it for me today. So what I want to do is now turn to you and ask for a volunteer who will be the first to step up to answer these questions that many of you, 94 of you, already answered in the community, and that's what the list of participants that I posted was about. Yes, there are people who say they have a problem with connection. That happens nearly every time, Marta. Let me see what else is happening for the audio. I'm not sure, Oscar, if yes, my suggestion in some cases may be to reconnect. You may even have to sort of leave GoToTraining and come back in. That's one possibility. Timothy, great to see that you're connecting from Brussels Central Station. Miriam asks if we can turn off webcams. So, in the past, we wouldn't even have considered doing it with people's bandwidth improving. In all countries, we're sort of gradually trying it, but I've just turned them off. All right. So let me just go back to the list of participants. And I know it takes, okay, so we've got Matanda, Sadrak, Bertrand, or Bertrand, and Toon Vandenhove. So Matanda, I've unmuted you. You also need to unmute yourself. Yes, go ahead, Matanda. Oh, you were just unmuted. You need to do that again so we can hear you.
Okay, good morning to everybody. I'm called
Yes,
Bertrand Matanda.
yes,
I'm sorry.
good morning
Yes,
to you.
I'm
Matanda,
okay.
meet
Yes,
Mr.
I'm
Timer.
getting you.
I'm going to start a 2-minute timer, and you have 2 minutes to answer these three, to speak to these 3 points. And for everyone else in the group, feel free to use the chat box to comment and follow up. If you have follow-up questions, we'll take them as well. The floor is yours, Matanda.
Thank you very much. So, I'm called Bertrand Matanda. I'm old emergency relief specialist. I've been working for the Red Cross for the past 25 years as a volunteer, as a delegate, and everything. In a nutshell, that's who I am. What emergency operation do you thinking of writing up? As I wrote on my first day, I said I would talk about the Gambia population movement. This took place in early 2017. It was a very small scale emergency operation, but I thought I have to talk about it because it was very complex in terms of access because there was an issue. The president was there. The incoming president didn't want to leave, so he was pushed out by the international community to leave. And by doing that, a lot of military came around, and there was no access to go to the population, and we had a great problem. I say, okay, let me write about it because there is an issue of military civil coordination here, and it was not easy to all the humanitarian actors in the field to go and support. And this is an issue that I think when we are talking about safer access, we have to prepare in advance and or during when we are doing our mission. So I said this in a very short way that this is very important thing that I think you have to talk about in safer access framework. I will end it there. I'm sure that there are a lot of questions. There was just a quick introduction. For more information, people can go to my page and will say what I wrote. Thank you.
Thank you, Matanda, and right on time. Okay, so questions and comments in the chat, please, and let's now hear from Toon Vandenhove. I've unmuted you. You also need to unmute yourself.
Okay, I unmuted. You can hear me?
Loud and clear. I'm starting the cruel Mr. Timer. The floor is yours.
No problem. Very good morning to everybody, or it's perhaps another time where you are. Anyhow, my name is Toon Vandenhove. I have a background for quite some years in the ICRC, but work now the last 7 years in the Norwegian Red Cross, first in the disaster management unit, and now since 1 month I'm responsible for security, so very interested in the safer access course. The operation I have taken as an example is or on which I would like to work a bit is the Bangladesh operation, the population movement operation there in Bangladesh that started about a good half a year ago, where the Norwegian Red Cross, together with the support of together with the Finnish Red Cross and with the support of a lot of other national societies, has opened the field hospital in mid-October 2017, and what I observed is that there are, of course, on running such a hospital, there are a lot of difficult issues to solve, but that despite extensive training, I think, of people who go there on cultural awareness, and we do that on impact, we do that on ERU trainings, and quite some people also follow specialized management training, that we struggle with cultural awareness and acceptance, both with national society, local authorities. But yeah, mainly with those two, not so much with the population. And I think that's an aspect I would like to look at more during this training and to get comments on and support from others. That's about it.
Right. Okay, thank you. So next up, we have Gurudev Singh. And in some cases, so I just see hands raised. I try to keep track of the order in which to respect that, and also to privilege people we haven't heard from yet. So of course, we're just getting started, but just so you know, that can be an issue if we have many volunteers. So Gurudev, are you able to speak to us?
Yes.
And,
hello, everybody.
okay, hi. Mr. Timer is starting now.
Oh, hello, everybody. I am going to talk about my experience working with Ebola operations in Liberia. At the time, I was sent as a search support to support the safe and dignified burial teams. And I think if I had the safer access training before I went there, my life would have been a lot easier. And the whole thing that I'm going to talk about is the community acceptance. Sorry, I'll just look at my notes. Yeah, there was a lot of community hostility for the against the volunteers in any humanitarian organization. And so it became very important to do the community engagement with the communities, and especially training our volunteers how to address the communities and be accepted by the communities to be able to carry out the work of the safe and dignified burial teams. And at some point we did sort of halfway through the operation, or not even halfway through the operation, probably a month after the operation started, we ended up having special training and organized a group of volunteers that were especially involved in community engagement before the SDB teams came in, and how to approach the community and how to be accepted by the community. In spite of that, we did have a lot of confrontations at times where some of the volunteers weren't trained enough, where I felt that I had to intervene to stop being attacked by the communities. So this is what I'm going to talk to you about. And I'll be writing sort of longer presentation on this at some point.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, and the tool we'll be sharing with you, of course, and the guided process to actually write up your case study will include what we call a rubric that includes really all of the guiding questions, the structure, a lot of elements, so that so to facilitate, one, to help you sort of flesh out your case study, and second, when you do peer review, so everyone has a common reference point. So great. We'll hear now from Anne-Claire Reita, and then we'll go to Panu Suristo for his comments and thoughts on what you have presented so far. So Anne-Claire, you need to unmute yourself. Yes, are you able to speak?
All right. I just wanted to give some comments on the second presenter because he mentioned about the operation in Bangladesh. With the emergency field hospital, there are some struggles on cultural differences and awareness. If I'm not mistaken, it's the purpose of having the local staff together with the operation is, to not to be so much heterogeneous with the staff operating in the field hospital. So I guess it would really support the team from different national society operating on the field hospital if they get people from the national society to work with them who are already trained on safer access. That's it.
Thank you very much. As you can see, we keep these sessions tight and short. The initial presentation I will make will be far shorter in the coming weeks. So to close out this session, I'm going to turn to Panu, who is Panu Suristo from the IFRC. You've already seen him in the videos, and you heard him during the briefing session. Panu, you need to unmute yourself.
It was okay, but you know what? I wish if we had started with the...
Yeah, let me just mute everyone. Oh, okay, Panu is now offline, so he's probably trying to connect. All right, so just to remind everyone again about the process, I'm hoping Panu will be able to reconnect. Yes, by the end of this week, we're hoping you're going to have to make this decision, and really, well, not just a decision because you're already in the exercise, but really make that that commitment. If you're frustrated by how short these presentations were, I can see many hands raised, and I'm sorry we could not get to everyone. there are already 94 stories shared in the community. I invite you to go and read them once you've finished with your tasks, and of course to share yours in writing. It's a little bit different than simply presenting orally, but that's how we can grow together as a community. So one last chance for Panu to reconnect, but he seems to be offline, so I don't think we'll be hearing from him. The other person is we're waiting to figure out the dates when Catherine Martin from ICRC will be able to attend this discussion group, and the subject matter experts, yes, that we're going to, there may be others that we're hoping to get into the group, will be asked to give you feedback on your oral presentations. And the oral presentation each week will be focusing on precisely what the work you've been doing in the Scholar community. I just want, for people viewing the recording, they won't be able to see the chat. So I just want to read their messages before we close out the session. So Alvin saying, very interesting story and experience sharing session. Johannes Schad, unfortunately, intercultural competencies are so far not part of regular ERU IFRC trainings for delegates. Valerie Hirima, very interesting examples. Maximilian Henk, hey guys, I have to go to an emergency right now. Bad timing, doubt that I will be back in time. So we're done. Oscar Lorente, hi. Guru, nice to hear from you again. I agree with the point you highlighted. Community engagement done by volunteers was a key element to stop Ebola in West Africa. But we cannot forget as well the recurrent reluctance from the communities to be assisted. Ranvig Fightness, can you please mute everyone? Yes. So Ranvig, I still don't really understand the extent of the writing we're going to do. Can you say some more? Yes. So on Monday, you will receive the rubric. So the very specific structure, guiding questions, criteria that we expect that you will address, and that you will be the common reference point for what should be in that case study that you'll be developing. So we haven't shared it with you yet, but we will on Monday to help you get started with your creator project. So yes, Alain Constant asked for more orientation about the writing of the project. We'll be doing that. Just right now, our main concern is that you're in Scholar, you know how to keep up with the exercise, and then we'll be sort of day by day giving you more more of what you need.